As CEOs, there's this constraint. It's in front of our face. Sometimes we don't see it. Oftentimes we do. And then we don't solve it. And we just think like magically it's going to go away. Because like oftentimes as CEOs, we don't like to solve problems as much as we like to pursue opportunities. So we see, oh, here's a new shiny opportunity over here. I can start this new business. I can partner with this person. I can bring on this new product. And guess what? Your products or your problems still exist back here. All right. So the first thing is, when it comes to a CEO or a manager, right? A really good CEO does two things, right? So let's talk about the first thing. When it comes to business, I like to follow the theory of constraints. And so if you think about your restaurant or your location, your business, it's only going to grow to its constraint. That's the ceiling. So you'll only grow up to your constraint and then you'll stop growing. So in your business, identifying what your constraint is the first job as a CEO or as a manager. Identifying constraints. The second job of a CEO or a leader is to allocate a disproportionate amount of time, money, and energy to solving that one constraint and doing this over and over and over again. Let me explain. So with the theory of constraints, let's say you have a group of boys and they go on a hike. And they all have their backpacks because they are going on this long hike here. Right? So here are the group of boys. And at the front of the pack, you have this person right here, and he's going really fast. He's in really good shape, right? He's prepared, he's an expert hiker, he's moving along. Then this person at the back of the pack is just sluggish, very slow. So when it comes to this group of individuals, it doesn't matter how fast the fastest person is. You will only move as fast as your constraint. So this is the constraint right here in the hike. Because what's going to happen is you're going to go along and then eventually there's going to be a massive gap. Say like 100, 200 yards, 500 yards, half mile, whatever, and you're going to have to stop. Okay, hold on, let's stop, let's wait for slowpoke down here, and then you wait, they catch up. Okay, are you good? And then you all move together as a group, and then guess what? You have the constraint, and this constantly happens. So in business, our whole job is to identify what is the constraint and solve the constraint. So if you're on this hike, how do you solve this constraint here? You take whatever's out of their backpack and you give it to everybody else. So you take their backpack away, and then if you need to give them a piggyback ride or whatever, like create a stretcher, like carry them, whatever you need to do to increase the throughput, increase this constraint, then the whole group moves faster. So in your business, you have a constraint right now that's impacting your ability to grow. You're stuck at the constraint. What are your thoughts? Anybody have a thought that they want to share about their constraint?
Pricing.
Pricing? Okay, explain.
Occupancy. Hours.
So just pick one. Yeah, just pick one. When you say pricing, okay, occupancy. So like your occupancy, like your cost is a constraint? Like your rent is a constraint? Is that what you're saying?
How many people you can, like asses and seats.
Okay, so that your capacity, like how many people you could have in there is you're
done.
You're capped out. So if that's your number one constraint, then how to solve that is, okay, our lease is up on this date. Are you leasing it? Are you owning it? Yeah. Okay, so you can open another location. You could get out of your lease. I mean, working towards solving that constraint is something you do, but then you may realize, okay, it's not worth the energy because it's just a fixed constraint, and I can't deal with this until 3 years down the road. I'm just making that up. Okay, let me move on to the next constraint. What's the next constraint, right? And so in our business, maybe that constraint is one employee. Maybe it's a key employee, and you're like, they are the number one thing holding my business back, and until you solve that constraint, you're going nowhere. And what businesses do, and I don't know why we do this, I've done it before too, but like as CEOs, there's this constraint, it's in front of our face, sometimes we don't see it, oftentimes we do, and then we don't solve it. And we just think like magically it's gonna go away. Because like oftentimes as CEOs, we don't like to solve problems as much as we like to pursue opportunities. So we see, oh, here's a new shiny opportunity over here. I can start this new business. I can partner with this person. I can bring on this new product. And guess what? Your products or your problems still exist back here. So until you solve those problems, the problems just get bigger and bigger and bigger until they like constrain and they choke your business. But that's what we do as managers, leaders, CEOs, is that we like to seek out opportunities instead of solve the problems that are holding us back. I guarantee you, if you focus on your problems, solving the constraint, your business grows. Going after opportunities, you're starting fresh every single time. And that's the trap. Like when you look at it, this is how we start off. We start off super excited about something. Oh my gosh, I just opened a new restaurant. This is gonna be the best thing ever. I'm gonna make all this money. Like I cannot wait to do this. And you have this like very high level of optimism. And then you start going, you open the doors, you start taking on all these customers, and then time goes on, the line starts to shrink, you start having personnel issues, all the stuff, you're making payroll, you have to tap into your home equity line of credit to keep things going, and then all of a sudden you're like, dang, this is really hard. And you start going down, right? And so what do most people do right here? When they're down here, they jump and they say, well, now instead of a restaurant, I'm gonna start a new business. I'm gonna start a plumbing company, right? And then you're all excited and then you're like, dang, this is really hard. And then you jump and then you start a new business. And that's what most people do. But if you can stick this out and you can solve these problems and these constraints, guess what? It eventually improves and then it gets better and you go back up. But I'm telling you, like every time you start over, it's like you're starting over from scratch thinking that you're gonna make more money, but like really it's all repetition. Right? It's just doing something 10,000 times, but we don't wanna do that. We just wanna jump to the next thing. So that's the theory of constraints, and I would say there's one thing in your business right now, one thing that is holding you back from growing. And until you solve that constraint, you're gonna burn through a ton of money and time and energy, and that constraint's gonna still be there. So the faster you get at identifying the constraint, and then like I said, allocating an inordinate amount of resources towards solving that constraint. So what do I mean by that? Like
investing in equipment, investing in people,
sure.
investing in your business.
Like what I call this a strategic problem. Like when I help companies with strategy, I call it the strategic problem. I say, what's the number one obstacle or constraint that's holding your business back? And sometimes business leaders are like, yeah, it's like, if we had more leads, if we just had more customers, we'd have more revenue. And like I said, okay, well, that fixed a lot of your problems. They're like, yeah, it fixed a lot of our problems. And like, then focus on getting more leads, more customers. And they're over here creating like an employee manual. They're like fixing this over here. They're doing a bunch of weird stuff. And I'm like, what the heck are you doing? Solve the one constraint, and then a lot of other stuff becomes irrelevant. I mean, think about it. I imagine a lot of you like are suffering from like the economic conditions. Like it's tough being a restaurant owner, right? Bar owner. Like really tough. So it's like if I dropped $200,000 more revenue in your lap right now, what would that do to your company? Would that change things? Yeah. $500,000 gave you $1 million more bucks of sales. How would that change your life? Then focus on that one thing, right? So that's the whole theory of constraints, and it's doing this process over and over and over again. So that's what I challenge you, and like challenge you to do is looking at that, because like also when I'm helping companies with strategy, it's like, okay, let's identify what are our key initiatives that we're going to do to overcome our constraint, and then underneath these initiatives, what are the actions we're taking in order to move these initiatives forward? And when I look at the action list, that's when I realize where the problems are. Like I'll go into a company, I'm like, what the heck are you doing? Like you're trying to solve this, but you're like way over here doing the stuff you want to do, not the stuff that has to be done. All right, so how does this tie back in to finance? This is the last part, and then I'm going to go to Q&A. So let's talk about setting KPIs, key performance indicators. And then I'm going to give you some targets. Matt brought that up during the lunch break. I think it's a great idea. When it comes to setting KPIs, there's a few ways to do it. The first way is just go to ChatGPT and be like, what are the top KPIs for a restaurant business? You could do that. And it'll spit back 5 to 10 KPIs, and you'll be like, cool, and you'll start measuring them. And then one day you'll wake up and you'll be like, what am I doing here? I'm measuring this stuff and it's not connecting here. Okay, so you could go down that path if you want to start somewhere, but not recommended. Instead, anytime you look at a KPI, so here's KPI, right? Here's a KPI that you're looking at. Anytime you look at a KPI, you have to ask yourself, what is the behavior I'm trying to change by looking at this KPI? In other words, if this KPI goes down, if it starts declining, what are the 3 actions I'll take as a result of this? What most people do is they have this dashboard and they look at these KPIs and they're like, oh, wow, that's nice. It's crazy. Sales are going down. All right, good meeting. Meet you guys next month. Super helpful. Thanks for sending over those financials. It's great. Instead, you want to be like, okay, revenue's going down. When revenue goes down in my business, these are the 3 levers I could pull, right? Number 1, I could change my average transaction value. I can change my traffic, my volume, right? Whatever it is, like pull your levers and like make sure your team understands the levers and then go execute, right? But too many people, they just come up with KPIs and they're like, oh, that's a cool dashboard. Super cool. But then they don't do anything about it, right? So how do you actually figure out KPIs? What's the best way to figure out KPIs? So I like to draw a tree, a logic tree. Okay, this is nerdy Steve here. So if you look at anything, and you could break out any component of your business. You could look at cost of goods sold, you could look at operating expenses, you could look at revenue, whatever it may be. Let's just break out revenue. Remember this is top line on the income statement? We'll have revenue. Okay, so in your business, revenue is a function of a few things. So the first thing is price. Okay. The next thing here is volume. And then the next thing is your mix. Make sense? Okay. Now your price is made up of 2 things. So if we break down price even further, this is what you charge. I'll just put what you charge here. And it's your discounts. So if you discount your products, those 2 things make up your price. That's ultimately what you charge the customer. Okay. Now, in your business, you may say, okay, well, we have 3 different types of discounts. Then you could break down discounts even further, right? You could be like, okay, I give discounts for people who complain. I do promotional discounts. You could break it down further, and you could take the tree out. We'll just stop right there. Okay, volume. This is driven by 2 things. It's driven by new customers and existing customers. Okay. New customers are broken down by traffic and conversion, which I'll get into here in a second. And existing customers can be broken down by frequency and by churn. Mix can be a combination of food, drinks, beverages, whatever, however you break it out, and desserts. Just making this up. Does that make sense? Okay. So let's focus on this volume part, because I'm sure this is a big constraint for a lot of your businesses right here. So when you look at new customers, traffic and conversion, traffic is how many people do you get coming to your location. Conversion is how many of them are actually going to order something or convert, like as a customer. They're going to buy something. They're going to turn into a buying customer or a loyal customer. Because they may come the first time they get the traffic, and then they eat one time and they're like, I'm out. They don't convert down here to an existing customer. Or they just go and they're like, yeah, I'm cool. I'm just here with my friends. I'll just have water, right? Then existing customers down here, this is how often do they come? They come to your restaurant once, They come once a year. They come 3 times a year, 10 times a year, whatever. And then what's the churn? So what percentage of them stay with you? How much of this do you retain year over year? What's your churn rate? And then down here, you could break out revenue by your food, and you can say, okay, 35% of our revenue comes from here, and break it out. Is this helpful? This is how you set KPIs. All right, so then what you do is once you have this all mapped out, this is just on the revenue side. You could do the same thing with costs. You could have cost of goods sold, OPEX, and then break out your cost of goods sold. You could have labor, then break out labor even further. I got back house, front house. Okay, now back house, it breaks out even further, and you just keep breaking out the tree. Then what I would say is you look at these things and you say, okay, where are the constraints? So let's just say this is my business. And I look at price, volume, and mix. So say, okay, how's my mix? My mix is good. I feel good with my food, my drinks, my desserts. I look at my price, I'm like, I can't charge anymore. Like literally, I feel like I'm at the top of the market. So my price is good and we're not really giving that many discounts. So I feel like we're good here. Maybe we could tighten it a little bit, but we're pretty good. Volume, this is my problem. Then the next thing is it a new customer problem or is it existing customers? And then if I say, okay, my existing customers, in fact, we're pretty good here. And actually our frequency is 3.6 on average. I'll tell you how to get that. And then my churn right here, we have like 90% retention, revenue retention. And then over here, I say, okay, well, where's my traffic? And it's like, okay, my traffic actually is we do, 53,000 transactions a year here, right? And here we do 180,000 transactions a year. So like this is super low. And our conversion is actually like 30%. Meaning that they come once and only 30% are coming down here. Where's the problem? So like right here, if I improve this by 10%, you're gonna have a massive upswing right here. Because that means 5,000 of your transactions are gonna be repeatable and you're gonna retain 90% of that and you're just gonna build your business faster. But where most people go astray is they'll look at this and they'll say, okay, they're either not looking at conversion right here, or they're just like, we need more traffic. So then they just go spend. I'm gonna go do Facebook ads. I'm gonna do geofencing. I'm gonna target people. I'm gonna send more people to our store. We're gonna offer more discounts, and we're gonna just drive more traffic. Great, you drive more traffic, but your conversion sucks. Therefore, you're just spending and spending and spending. I know this because as a CFO of this fintech company up in Boulder, we're spending $1 million a month in sales and marketing. And it wasn't until we fixed our conversion rate that everything changed. We were bringing in all these leads, we just weren't converting them. So we were just spending more and more and more money. We're just like blowing all this money. And so this right here, if this is my number one constraint, I want to put a KPI on it. So we want to start measuring it because what you measure gets managed. And then second, I want to come up with strategies to fix this conversion. And so I call it initiatives, actions, and results. That's the framework I use. IARs is what I call it. It's like taking a goal, and I break it down into an initiative, which is like 3 to 5 years in duration. What are the actions, the little baby steps? And then what are the key results I'm going to do to measure it? So I would say my initiative is to improve conversion for my location. What are the action steps I'm going to take? Is I'm going to first train my team to enhance the customer experience. So when people come in, it's a great experience, so then they convert. I'm also gonna fix my product because maybe my burgers suck, Maybe my French fries are soggy. So I'm gonna fix my product there. And then also I'm gonna implement a loyalty program. And these are the 3 things I'm gonna focus on right now. Everything else is a distraction. I'm gonna solve this constraint and I'm gonna get this up to 70%. And then guess what? Another constraint's gonna pop up. It's like whack-a-mole, Something else is gonna pop up. And then you solve that constraint and you do this over and over again in your business. Is this making sense? If you don't do it this way, then you're just gonna come up with some random KPIs that your CPA gave you or that you found on ChatGPT. You're measuring something way down here. You're like, oh, that's great. Look at this. It's going up, out the roof. And it's yeah. But your business is about to die because of conversion. And as restaurant owners, this may be the hard truth, and I hate to say this, but so many companies that I work with, and I like to eat out, and I'm kind of snobby. I like to have ice cream. So I've had ice cream all across the world. I've been to 46 countries. My goal is to go to 50 countries by 50 years old. I've been to 46, and in every single country I've had ice cream. That's my whole thing. Like when I go to this country, I have ice cream. Iceland is probably one of the best countries for ice cream. Switzerland was pretty good. I found pistachio there as excellent. But anyways, when I go to these places, like sometimes, like once I went to this place in Colombia, and I ordered ice cream, and I started eating it. It was all icy, and I was like, what the heck? I just threw it in the trash. Like, it's not even worth the calories. And so it's like with restaurants, we spend all this money and time trying to promote the sandwich, the metaphorical sandwich, but the sandwich is disgusting. The sandwich is crap. And it's like, we just need to do more promotion. And it's like, no, your sandwich is disgusting. Like the turkey's slimy. I don't know why is it slimy? I don't get that. And like, so we do this over and over again, trying to do this, but like our products and services are messed up. It's like, do you taste your own food? Right? Do you taste your own food? Really? Like, is this something that like you would be proud of serving? And it's like, if you fix the product and service and you make it exceptional, then you're going to spend a lot less time trying to promote it. So many companies, they spend all this money up front, right, to fix the good companies do this, I should say. They spend all this money up front fixing the product, getting the product right, getting the customer experience nailed down, and then they spend a little bit of money in the future promoting that because referrals, word of mouth, everything else sells itself. Other companies skip this and they spend a ton of money up front promoting the product's crappy, and therefore they will spend a ton of money moving forward, and your cost structure will be super high, your customer acquisition costs will be too high, and your business will never grow. But like, honestly, like go to your restaurant, go inside the bathroom. Would you sit down on the floor with like a kid, you know? Or is there like urine everywhere, it's disgusting? Like what about like the food? Like is the food good? The lettuce is like, has black stuff on it. It's all soggy. Like, do you really like believe in your products and services? Like fix that, and then your business fixes too. So I know this is probably not a topic you want to hear because you're like, oh no, our stuff's the best. And it's like, if it's the best, like you wouldn't be having issues in certain areas. Yeah.
I work at a kitchen, I'm a chef, and you would be amazed at how many people actually eat their own food. Mm-hmm. I always tell my cooks to taste everything to make sure that like we like it, to make sure kind of ensure product quality. I've worked in a lot of kitchens where people don't even know what something's supposed to taste like, and I think that is a real big hurdle for kitchens. The cooks don't even know what it's supposed to taste like.
Yeah, exactly. I live in Castle Rock. My wife and I, we used to like to go to the Great Divide. And so that was like our spot. We'd go there every week. And so then one time I went there and they changed the menu up. And they used to have like this prime rib sandwich or whatever. It was really good. And so I ordered that. And it comes out and it's literally like a bun and meat. And I'm like, isn't there supposed to be like cheese? Oh no, the cheese is extra. Like, aren't there supposed to be like peppers on this? Oh yeah, we could do that. It's like $1.50 more. I'm like, the sandwich is already like $19. And now you're like, just make it $22 and charge me $22. Don't give me this. Like literally it was like bread and meat. And I was like, really? And then they gave me a salad and the salad was like terrible. It was just like some lettuce with just some toppings. And I'm like, okay, I could do this at home. Never been back. Never went back. I went to Earl's. I used to love Earl's. And if any of you guys are like, oh, I know somebody who works at Earl's, like, I don't care. But like, I got this burger, and the burger was like something I got from Wendy's. I was like, really? Earl's? Come on. Like, your burgers used to be so good. And so like businesses, instead of fixing the main problem, they're like, oh, let's cut on our product. Let's go cheaper with this. Or like, let's go beat up our vendor. Like, no, like go in there and get the best burger patty you can possibly get and get like really good cheese and like spend the time on the product, and then everything else fixes itself. Like you cannot cut your way to success in a restaurant. You can't.
But how do you balance that against the economic times? And people are like, oh my gosh, everything's so expensive. Oh my gosh, $15 burger. Yeah.
Yep.
Go to the grocery store, Yeah.
Yes, but like here's the thing. So when value, this is value right here. Here's the equation. When value exceeds price, this is price right here. When value exceeds price, customers buy. because there's this perceived value. And when price exceeds value, customers don't buy. That's how it is. Now, not always are we doing the mathematical calculation where you're like, okay, this is my time times this, I make this much an hour. You're not doing that. But like intuitively, you're thinking that. So it's interesting, like I have the conversation all the time with like Little Man, for example. We talk about the price of ice cream. And it's like, okay, well, our prices are getting up there, like they're going higher. And it's like, well, yeah, guess what? Like our labor used to be $12 an hour. Now it's like $25 an hour, burdened, right? So it's like nearly doubled. Our ice cream prices went up by $1. And so you also look at ice cream, it's like, okay, here's a scoop of ice cream, $5. We'll just round it, $5. And so I'm thinking about this. Okay, we make our own ice cream. So we have to buy the base, the ingredients, we have to mix it, we have to do this, we have to freeze it, we have to get a truck to drive that to the store, drop it off. We do it, we scoop it, this is wasted, so we throw that away, we have to clean up the counters, all the sticky stuff, we clean the store, do all that, right? And we serve a $5 scoop of ice cream. And then I was at Crumble Cookie the other day, and it's like you could get one cookie for $5. It's like bake it, put some frosting on, it's $5. And so you're like, dang, that's expensive for like a cookie, like $5 for a cookie, that's a lot, right? You go like King Soopers and just get like a cookie for like 80 cents or something, I don't know what it is. But it's the value. That's why people are willing to pay, $5 for a cookie. And I looked it up, the average Crumble cookie store does about $1 million a year in revenue, right? Because the value's there. And so like, you do have to balance it with economic times. I'm not naive to say, okay, you could charge $40 for your burger because it's like the best bison ever and customers are going to buy it. I think the key is like we have to understand what do our customers actually care about and then give them what they care about. Like if they want a $5 burger, give them a $5 burger and like figure out how to make a $5 burger and make it profitable. But if they come to your restaurant and you're saying, oh, we're all organic, we're all this, we're this, and you claim all this stuff, and then they eat the burger and they're like, what the crap is this? It has nothing to do with price.
I mean, I would also say that when I go out to eat, the things that upset me are not usually issues with like the cost of ingredients, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm happy to get a burger that's not like, a Wagyu patty or something. If like the bun is toasted well, if it's seasoned well, if it's seared well, if the tomatoes cut to the right thickness, and like none of those things cost any more money.
Yep.
Like toasting a shitty bun and toasting a delicious bun costs the same amount of dollars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's more like
I get it,
consistency
yeah.
and that's the hardest part in a restaurant, honestly. It's easy to buy expensive ingredients, but like getting your staff to do things the same way every time, to taste what they're cooking, to season it appropriately. Like that's the hard part because people
Agree.
are human,
Agree.
Yeah, to be nice to people, that's literally the hardest thing
Yeah.
to get people to do.
I would say that's the biggest thing that deters me to for return visits, right? It's like the service, the culture, like the environment. You like are you training your people? Like that's my biggest pet peeve. When you walk
Yeah.
into a bar or a restaurant and nobody seems like they know that they're even there. They're just like, hello. Yeah. So
Yep.
that would be a constraint, right? Like where you're like, okay, no, we need to like create culture and train our staff appropriately.
Yeah. Well, I think like here's the deal. There's really two generic strategies. There's three, but there's two generic strategies in business. One is differentiation. One is cost leadership. So either you're going to differentiate your business, meaning you're going to be unique somehow in the marketplace, but you're going to be unique in a way where customers are willing to pay for it. That's the key. Customers are willing to pay for that differentiation. Or the other strategy is cost leadership. I'm not talking about price. I'm talking about cost. So those are the two different strategies to pursue. Where most companies go astray is that they straddle. They say, we want to be different, and we also want to have low cost or high cost, and it doesn't work. So like, do you know who your ideal customer profile is? Because maybe your customer prefers just a fast, convenient, greasy burger that I could walk in, order, and have in my hand in 3 minutes. Maybe that's what it is. And like, that's why the In-N-Out burger, like I was in Vegas last week, I ordered an In-N-Out burger and fries, and it's like a double burger, and it's like $7. It's like $7, dang, that's great, It's like $7, and they do that, and they make a ton of money because they know who their ideal customer is, and that's who they serve. But like when we try to like mix it, and we're like, oh, we're gonna be like this differentiated company, and we're gonna do this, and all our costs are high because you're trying to support that, but then like customers don't care, you lose a ton of money.